So I was having a conversation the other day with two people, and these two individuals were telling me about their brand and their company and what they offer to people. And during this conversation, it came up that they were looking at needing to get more collateral produced. The only problem was they didn't quite know where their source files were for their logo. And in talking with them and looking at some printed samples of their logo, I mentioned to them that they could probably find a designer to recreate it. But their logo used a unique font. They didn't know what that font was. They didn't have any kind of brand standard, any kind of manual, or anything outlining the parts that make up their brand. And in telling them and talking with them about this, I mentioned that if they give it to a designer, the designer could probably try to figure out what font and typography was used and everything. But the problem is they might not be able to get it to match very closely. And right then, these two individuals, almost in unison, said the same three hazardous words to any brand. I don't care. When what they were implying is they didn't care whether or not they needed to pick a different font. And if they wound up with a slightly different logo, they would be fine with that. The problem with this attitude of I don't care can start to seep into everything that relates to your business. Those three words, as simple as they are, can cause a lot of future damage and heartache and struggle for your brand. If you don't care now, what's going to cause you to care later? What's going to cause you to care whether or not you got a bad review on some kind of review site such as Yelp or anywhere like that? If you don't care enough to take care of your brand now, it's going to start to trickle in and start to rot away at your brand at its core. They often call rust on a ship like a cancer. It starts to eat away at the ship. The ship might be able to sail and still be able to stay afloat for a while, but eventually that rust is going to deteriorate so much that it becomes unable to be seaworthy. It's not going to be able to support what it was meant to. The same thing can happen to your brand. Those three words are basically cancer for your brand. Take them out of your vocabulary. Don't allow those three simple words, I don't care, into any part of your conversation in which you're talking about your brand. Especially if you're talking about your employees or your customers. You need to care. Everybody that's associated with your brand needs to care. Switch it out from I don't care to we do care. And as you do that, you'll start to expand your brand. You'll start to make it better. You'll start to focus on the things that actually matter to your brand because you'll want to make it better. And everybody that's involved with your brand will try to do the same thing. Let me know down below how you are going to try this week to show that you care more about your brand. Are you going to sit down and try to figure out maybe the fonts that are used in your brand mark? Are you going to try and redetermine how you focus on customer satisfaction? Are you going to focus on how you can make your employees happier? How are you going to make your brand better this week? And by doing that, you'll position yourself. You'll start to see that you'll build a roadmap of how to make your brand better every single week. Don't forget to subscribe so that way we can continue this conversation to find out how we can continue to make your brand better. And we will do every single week, we'll talk more and more about what we need to do. We'll see you next week. Let's make your brand better.